Pickle, let's go to the hotline, and let's go live to South Bend, Indiana, to talk with the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, the voice of the Texas Longhorns, and the host of the eponymous Craig Way Show on AM 1300 The Zone, and the host of High School Scoreboard Live as well. He is Craig Way. Hi, Craig.
How you guys doing?
How are the Golden Domers treating you?
Well, I just got here a little while ago. I had a men's basketball game, Texas, NC State, ACC, SEC Challenge last night in Raleigh, and went through Charlotte and had a little 2-hour plane delay, and so then we land here, and it's a blizzard. So it landed, and the words "lake effect snow" don't usually bother us too much. They're used to it up here, but landed and. I mean, I'm going to tell you, it's cold. You know how cold it is?
How cold is it, Craig?
I heard that somebody went over to see if Touchdown Jesus needed an overcoat. I'm telling you, it is cold. Yeah, I'll be here all week. No, I won't, actually. I'll be in Atlanta on Saturday, but try the veal.
You will be in Atlanta because of what happened last Saturday night in College Station. Texas defeats Texas A&M 17-7 as the rivalry is renewed for the first time in 13 years. I'm curious. You were at the last one, and you were at this one, and I'm curious to know, now that they've played again, what comparisons you make. Is it just like slipping on an old pair of shoes, or does the rivalry feel like it's changed?
In some ways, it kind of has that familiarity about it, and a lot of that, fans know fans and that sort of thing. It's a little different because now being in the SEC in Texas, being a newbie in the SEC, there was that kind of labeling going on. And now that Texas as a newbie is qualified for the SEC championship in their first year in the Southeastern Conference, I think things will probably kind of settle down a little bit afterwards. But people were very nice. It was an electric environment at times. But Texas played well enough to kind of keep the fans at arm's length. Sark on our postgame show afterwards said, maybe I built it up in my head to be bigger and more imposing than it actually turned out to be. It was 109,000. And I know what he means because, Tep, I can tell you, yes, the 109,000 were loud. But when Vanderbilt was within 3 in the fourth quarter, 29,000 there were loud. And when Arkansas was within 3 in the fourth quarter, 69,000 were loud there. So, it was just, by and large, the play of the Texas defense, I think, just kind of kept the crowd a little bit more subdued than they might ordinarily be. But it'll be a great series. I'm glad it's back. It'll be a lot of fun. And, of course, now they get the right to go to Atlanta, where they will take on a team that beat them 7 weeks ago in the Georgia Bulldogs. It was a 30-15 game back on October 19th. Why, let me just play dumb here, why should I believe that the result will be different this time around, or at least what they're saying around Texas parts? Why indeed? Well, I think there's a couple of things that are different about it this time around. First of all, just the nuts and bolts of it, Texas is running the ball with more of a purpose and more yardage and more production. They have really stepped up their game defensively. They've been good all year, but they've been outstanding the last few weeks. And Georgia has been a little leaky against the run in some recent ball games. So I think all those things could change it. But I will tell you this, Jeff, they've got to protect Quinn Ewers, or even maybe in some possible Wildcat sets in the red zone, if Arch Manning's in there, whoever's in there, they've got to protect them. In the 2 back-to-back games of Georgia and Vanderbilt, Texas surrendered 16 sacks. In the 4 games since, they've surrendered a grand total of 6. So they've done a better job of protecting the quarterback, but they're going to have to do that again because this Georgia defense really is good, especially against the pass.
Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer, joins us every Thursday here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. All right, Craig, on to the high school football ranks, where it's regional final week across the state. And I want to ask you a couple of different questions. One of them is, this is kind of last call time for a number of regions across the state that have been kind of long dominated by particular teams. And so I want to give you three of them that have crossed my mind, and I want to know which one you think perhaps is most in peril this week. Is it Gunner in 3A Division 2, who takes on a good Holiday team this week? Is it Canadian, who we just talked with Craig Slaughter, the head coach of the Wall Hawks? They're in 3A Division 2 Region 1, who've won 9 of the last 10 regional titles up there in Region 1. Or is it Wimberley in 4A Division 1, or 4A Division 2 rather, in Region 4, who have won 5 of the last 7 regional titles, but have a big matchup with Sinton this week? Which of those kind of long-standing regional powers do you foresee perhaps being in the most peril this week?
I think it's really, really close between Wimberley and Canadian. They're playing very, very good teams, and I think it's going to. Gunner is not playing chopped liver, by the way. Holiday, as you laid out, is a really good ball club, but the old thing, they're going to have to beat the man to be the man there with regard to Gunner. Wimberley is playing an outstanding Sinton team with a lot of speed, and the Texans will have to deal with that, I think, for sure. And then Canadian is playing a big, fast, mean-looking Wall Hawk ball club, well coached, obviously. So I think I would say Canadian maybe, and then not far behind them, Wimberley perhaps.
And then I want to ask you, of course, about it's also rematch week across the state. There's 12 games that we've already seen once, and it's good. They were good enough the first time around. We decided to re-up with it. One of them, of course, going on in your backyard, the Battle of the Lakes Part 2, as Westlake takes on Lake Travis. The first time they played back on October 25th, Westlake came away with a 28-16 win. And I guess my question for you would be kind of similar to the question about Texas and Georgia. We've seen this movie before. What about this game coming up here this week at the Palace on Parmer in Round Rock? What gives you thought that maybe this particular meeting might be different than the first time we saw it?
Similar to the Texas-Georgia thing on two levels. First of all, Texas played so poorly in the first half, and they were down 23-0, but they played a really good second half, especially in the third quarter, and they pulled within 8 at 23-15. In the first meeting, however, between Lake Travis and Westlake, it was hammer and tong for a while. They went back and forth. Remember, that was a 21-16 ball game in the fourth quarter until Shaps got the big punt return to give them the distance that they needed to do it. I think both teams' defenses are really shining right now. And, which one can impose the will and the other makes a difference. I do think that this particular game, as opposed to some other rematches, has a chance to flip. This one more so than the other ones, perhaps more so than North Shore Atascocita. Perhaps more so than a couple of other rematch matchups as well.
Last question for Craig Way, the Texas Basketball Hall of Famer, before we let him get back to his blizzard. Craig, normally we do the meanest thing we do to each other each week, which is to make you pick between 3 games, but I'm going to make it even tougher for you. Craig Way, you can either go to perhaps the most anticipated 11-man game of the year, 7 o'clock Friday night in Nacogdoches between South Oak Cliff and Port Neches Groves. Or, and you know where I'm going with this, or you can go to the most anticipated 6-man football game of the year, 6 o'clock Saturday night at Godley, as Abbott takes on Gordon in a battle of unbeatens with a spot at AT&T Stadium on the line. This is perhaps the meanest thing I've ever done to you. Which one of those are you going to?
Yeah, shame on you. Really, really shame on you. But I here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go off the grid on you.
Oh.
Because now, what have I said on the show past? Well, you asked me from day one which classifications that I find the most fascinating would be most intriguing. And I said 2 of them. Remember? I said 5A Division 2. Yep. And it has lived up to the billing. Absolutely. Not only with PNG and SOC, but also what we could see from Argyle and Lovejoy. And then the other's 3AD1. How can you walk away from Columbus Franklin? Yep. How can you do it?
He meant to say Llano Edna.
Now, having said all that, what do I think has the chance to be the best game of all of them? The 6-man game, Abbott and Gordon. But if you're telling me that I'm gonna have to go Solomon and all you need and split the baby and say I'm not going to pick either of those. I can't choose one over the other, so I'll go to Columbus Franklin instead.
That is fair enough. Foisted on my own petard. And he is Craig Way. He's the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. Hear him on the Craig Way Show on AM 1300 The Zone. You can hear him on the Texas Radio Network by Learfield, calling all the Texas sports, including there in South Bend, Indiana tonight. And then you can occasionally, I guess, see him on FanDuel Sports Southwest on High School Scoreboard Live. We miss you, man, like desperately. Like
it's been a long time since I've gone 5 straight weeks without being on, but it ends. The drought ends after this week. I'll be back to call a game next week for FanDuel Southwest and the show. I'll be back in studio with you and E.
Safe travels, my friend.
Thank you.
There he goes, Craig Way, the Texas Football Hall of Famer. Joins us every Thursday here on Texas Football today, regardless of what state he's in. Mm-hmm. I mean that state, United States of America, not like...
Yes.
You never know what state he's in either, you know what I mean? So anyway, we appreciate him hopping on with us.